You're here today because something inside you is pushing you. There's a fire burning in your soul, a voice telling you that you're meant for more. And you know what? That voice is right. But here's the thing. Wanting more isn't enough. Dreaming isn't enough. Wishing won't get you there. If you want to rise above the ordinary, if you want to break free from mediocrity, you've got to do one thing: force yourself. Work harder than everyone else. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking. Work harder. I'm already working hard. But let me ask you this. Are you working as hard as you possibly can? Are you pushing yourself to your absolute limits every single day? Because that's what it takes to truly stand out in this world. Look around you. The world is full of average people doing average things. They wake up, go to work, come home, watch TV, and go to sleep, rinse and repeat. Is that what you want for your life? Is that the legacy you want to leave behind? I don't think so. You're here because you want more. You're here because you know you're capable of greatness. But greatness doesn't come easy. It doesn't come to those who wait. It comes to those who work. Those who push, those who force themselves to go beyond what's comfortable, beyond what's expected. Think about the most successful people in the world. The ones who've changed industries, who've revolutionized the way we live, who've left their mark on history. Do you think they got there by doing the bare minimum? Do you think they achieved greatness by working a 9 to 5 and calling it a day? No. They got there by outworking everyone around them. They got there by forcing themselves to keep going when everyone else had given up. Now, I'm not saying it's going to be easy. Forcing yourself to work harder than everyone else is tough. It's going to take sacrifice. It's going to take discipline. It's going to take a level of commitment that most people aren't willing to make. But that's exactly why it's worth it. Because when you push yourself to that level, you separate yourself from the pack. You rise above the noise. Let me tell you a story. There was a young man who grew up in poverty. He didn't have much, but he had a dream. He wanted to become a successful businessman. Now, he could have looked at his circumstances and given up. He could have said, I don't have the money. I don't have the connections. I don't have the education. But he didn't. Instead, he forced himself to work harder than anyone else. And while his friends were out partying, he was studying. While others were sleeping in on weekends, he was up at dawn working on his business plan. He took every odd job he could find, saved every penny, and invested it in his education and his business. People thought he was crazy. They told him to relax, to enjoy life. But he knew that if he wanted to rise above his circumstances, he had to push himself beyond what was normal. And you know what? It paid off. Today, that man is the CEO of a multi-million-dollar company. He employs hundreds of people. He's changed not just his own life, but the lives of countless others. And it all started because he was willing to force himself to work harder than everyone else. Now, I'm not saying you need to give up every moment of joy in your life. I'm not saying you should never relax or have fun. What I am saying is that if you want extraordinary results, you need to put in extraordinary effort. You need to be willing to do what others want. Think about it this way. Success is like a pyramid. At the bottom, you have the majority of people. They're doing the minimum. They're getting by. As you move up the pyramid, you find fewer and fewer people. These are the ones who are willing to put in a little extra effort. But at the very top, that's where you find the elite. The ones who have pushed themselves to the absolute limit. The ones who force themselves to work harder than everyone else. Where do you want to be on that pyramid? Do you want to be at the bottom with the masses, or do you want to be at the top looking down at all you've accomplished? Now, some of you might be thinking, but I'm already working hard. I'm already doing my best. And to that, I say, are you really pushing yourself to your limits? Or are you just doing what feels comfortable? You see, our minds are tricky things. They like to convince us that we're doing our best, when really we're just doing what's easy. We like to stay in our comfort zones. We like to do what feels safe. But growth doesn't happen in your comfort zone. Success doesn't live where it's safe. If you want to achieve greatness, you've got to be willing to get uncomfortable. You've got to be willing to push yourself beyond what feels possible. You've got to force yourself to keep going when every fiber of your being is telling you to stop. Think about a bodybuilder. They don't build muscle by lifting weights that feel comfortable. They build muscle by pushing themselves to lift weights that feel impossible. They force themselves to do one more rep when their muscles are screaming for them to stop. That's how they grow. That's how they get stronger. Your mind works the same way. If you want to grow, if you want to get stronger, you've got to push yourself beyond what feels possible. You've got to force yourself to keep going when you think you can't take another step. Now, I know what some of you are thinking, but what if I burn out? What if I push too hard? And that's a valid concern. But here's the thing. Most people never come close to their burnout point. Most people give up long before they reach their true limits. You're capable of so much more than you realize. Your body, your mind, they're incredible machines. They can handle far more than you think they can. But you'll never know what you're truly capable of until you push yourself to find out. Think about the 4-minute mile. For years, people thought it was impossible for a human to run a mile under 4 minutes. It was considered a physical impossibility. But then in 1954, Roger Bannister did it. He forced himself to push beyond what everyone thought was possible. And you know what happened? After that, within just a few years, dozens of other runners had also broken the 4-minute barrier. What changed? The human body didn't suddenly evolve in those few years. What changed was people's beliefs about what was possible. Once they saw that it could be done, they forced themselves to work harder, to push further. They broke through their own mental barriers. That's what I'm asking you to do today. I'm asking you to break through your mental barriers. I'm asking you to force yourself to work harder than you ever have before, because that's where true success lies. That's where greatness is born. Now, I'm not saying it's going to be easy. In fact, I can guarantee you that it won't be. There will be days when you want to give up. There will be times when you feel like you can't take another step. But those are the moments that define you. Those are the moments when you have to dig deep and force yourself to keep going. Remember, success isn't about what you do when you feel motivated. It's about what you do when you don't feel like doing anything at all. It's about forcing yourself to get up and work when you'd rather stay in bed. It's about pushing yourself to learn one more thing, to make one more call, to try one more time when all you want to do is quit. Think about the most successful people in your field, the ones you look up to, the ones you aspire to be like. Do you think they got where they are by taking the easy road? Do you think they achieved greatness by doing the bare minimum? No. They got there by outworking everyone else. They got there by forcing themselves to keep going when everyone else had given up. Now, I'm not saying you need to work 24/7. I'm not saying you should never rest or recharge. What I'm saying is that you need to make every moment count. When you're working, really work. Don't just go through the motions. Don't just do enough to get by. Push yourself to do more, to be better, to go further than you ever have before. And here's the beautiful thing. When you start doing this, when you start forcing yourself to work harder than everyone else, something magical happens. It becomes a habit. You start to crave that feeling of pushing yourself, of breaking through barriers, of achieving what others thought was impossible. You see, success isn't something that happens to you. It's something you create. And you create it through consistent, relentless effort. You create it by forcing yourself to work harder than everyone else, day in and day out. Now, some of you might be thinking, but what about talent? You and I need natural ability to succeed. And yes, talent is important. But let me tell you something. Hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. I've seen incredibly talented people fail because they weren't willing to put in the work. And I've seen people with average abilities achieve extraordinary things because they were willing to outwork everyone else. You see, talent, there's just potential. It's a starting point, but it's what you do with that potential that matters. And that's where forcing yourself to work harder comes in. That's where pushing yourself beyond your limits makes all of the difference. Think about it this way. If you have a natural talent for something, that's great. But if you're not willing to work hard, to push yourself, to force yourself to get better every single day, that talent will go to waste. On the other hand, if you're willing to outwork everyone else, if you're willing to push yourself beyond what's comfortable, you can overcome almost any obstacle. You can achieve things that even the most naturally talented person couldn't achieve if they're not willing to put in the work. Now, I know what some of you are thinking, but I'm already busy. I already have so many responsibilities. How can I possibly work harder? And I get it. Life is busy. We all have commitments, responsibilities, things pulling us in different directions. But here's the thing. We all have the same 24 hours in a day. It's not about finding more time. It's about making better use of the time you have. Look at your day. Really examine how you're spending your time. Are you using every moment productively? Or are there pockets of time that you're wasting? Are you spending hours scrolling through social media, watching TV, sleeping in? These are all opportunities to work harder. I'm not saying you need to eliminate all leisure time from your life. Rest and relaxation are important. But what I'm saying is that you need to be intentional about how you're using your time. Make every moment count. Use those spare minutes to learn something new, to work on your goals, to push yourself just a little bit further. And here's another thing to consider. Working harder doesn't always mean working longer. It means working smarter. It means being more focused, more intentional about your efforts. It means eliminating distractions and really honing in on what's important. When you're working, really work. Don't try to multitask. Don't let your mind wander. Focus all your energy, all your attention on the task at hand. Push yourself to do it better, faster, more effectively than you ever have before. That's what it means to work harder than everyone else. Now let's talk about something else that's crucial when it comes to forcing yourself to work harder. Your mindset. You see, working hard isn't just about physical effort. It's about mental toughness. It's about developing a mindset that refuses to give up, that refuses to settle for less than the best. You've got to train your mind to embrace the challenge, to see difficulty not as an obstacle, but as an opportunity to grow stronger. When things get tough, when you feel like giving up, that's when you need to dig deep. That's when you need to remind yourself why you started in the first place. Remember, pain is temporary. It might last for a minute or an hour or a day or even a year, but eventually it will subside. And something else will take its place. If you quit, however, it lasts forever. You'll always know that you gave up, that you didn't push yourself as hard as you could have. Don't let that be your story. Don't let be your legacy. Force yourself to keep going. Force yourself to work harder than you ever thought possible. Because on the other side of that pain, on the other side of that struggle, that's where greatness lies. That's where you'll find the success you've been dreaming of. Now, I want you to think about something. Think about where you want to be in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. Really visualize it. See yourself living that life, enjoying that success. Feel the pride, the satisfaction of having achieved your goals. Now, here's the question. What are you willing to do to make that vision a reality? Are you willing to force yourself to work harder than everyone else? Are you willing to push yourself beyond what's comfortable? Are you willing to do whatever it takes to turn that vision into reality? Because that's what it's going to take. That's the price of success. It's not going to come easy. It's not going to come without sacrifice. But I promise you, it's worth it. The feeling of achieving your goals, of realizing your dreams, there's nothing like it in the world. But you've got to be willing to pay the price. You've got to be willing to force yourself to work harder than everyone else. You've got to be willing to push yourself beyond what you think is possible. And here's the thing. When you start doing this, when you start forcing yourself to work harder, to push further, something amazing happens. You start to discover strengths you never knew you had. You start to uncover talents and abilities that have been lying dormant inside you. You see, we're all capable of so much more than we realize. But most of us never find out what we're truly capable of because we never push ourselves to our limits. We stay in our comfort zones, doing what feels safe and easy. But that's not where growth happens. That's not where success is born. Growth happens when you push yourself beyond what's comfortable. Success is born when you force yourself to work harder than everyone else. So I want you to make a commitment to yourself right now. Commit to pushing yourself harder than you ever have before. Commit to working harder than everyone around you. Commit to forcing yourself to go beyond what feels possible. It's not going to be easy. There will be days when you want to give up. There will be times when you feel like you can't take another step. But those are the moments that define you. Those are the moments when you have to dig deep and force yourself to keep going. Remember, success is not a destination. It's a journey. It's a continuous process of growth, of pushing yourself, of becoming better than you were yesterday. And that journey never ends. There's always another level to reach, always another goal to achieve. So don't ever stop pushing yourself. Don't ever stop forcing yourself to work harder. Because the moment you stop pushing, the moment you stop growing, that's when you start falling behind. And let me tell you something. The world doesn't wait for those who aren't willing to push themselves. The world rewards those who are willing to go the extra mile, who are willing to do what others won't. So be that person. Be the one who's willing to force yourself to work harder than everyone else. Be the one who's willing to push beyond what's comfortable. Be the one who refuses to settle for anything less than your absolute best. Because here's the truth. You have greatness inside you. You have the potential to achieve amazing things. But that potential will remain just that. Potential will be willing to work for it. Unless you're willing to force yourself to go beyond what's easy, what's comfortable. So I challenge you today. I challenge you to push yourself harder than you ever have before. I challenge you to work harder than everyone around you. I challenge you to force yourself to go beyond what you think is possible. Because when you do that, when you commit to that level of effort, that level of dedication, that's when amazing things start to happen. That's when you start to see real results. That's when you start to achieve things you never thought possible. And let me tell you, there's no feeling in the world like knowing you've given your absolute best. There's no satisfaction quite like knowing you've pushed yourself to your limits and beyond. That's where true fulfillment lies. That's where you find the success you've been dreaming of. So don't wait. Don't put it off until tomorrow. Start right now. Start pushing yourself harder. Start working harder than everyone else. Start forcing yourself to go beyond what feels possible. Because the truth is, you're capable of so much more than you realize. You have strengths and abilities that you haven't even tapped into yet. But you'll never discover them if you're not willing to push yourself. You'll never uncover them if you're not willing to work harder than everyone else. So make that commitment to yourself. Commit to excellence. Commit to giving your absolute best in everything you do. Commit to forcing yourself to work harder than you ever have before.